Our philosophy is family, peace of mind, and generational wealth. So that's what we're always looking for. It just, again, for me, just taking my background, my experiences, it's all about family first, and just to have that time, that precious time, because I've lost so much time. I can never buy that time back. And now I want to have that freedom of choice, freedom of time.
Your network is your net worth. Come listen to some of the most successful people I know share invaluable knowledge, stories, and advice in real estate, business, and beyond. This is Weiss Advice. Whether you want to take your business or personal life to the next level, look no further. Welcome back to another episode of Weiss Advice. I am your host, as always, Yona Weiss, and I'm grateful today to be joined by Dr. Calvin Lowe from Los Angeles. What's going on, Calvin? How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you for having me here, Yona.
My pleasure. It's not every day we get to meet with a physician who's also a real estate investor. We've done it a few times, but I think the position that you're in is a great one. And you have done amazing things in your career. And I'm just curious to get to know more about you and understand, what gave you the real estate bug and allowed you to kind of transition a little bit into that game while still being a full-time doctor in the emergency room. So that's an exciting story. I'd love to kind of get into it today. If you wouldn't mind, give our listeners a little more background.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a full-time pediatric emergency medicine physician. I work at Children's Hospital in Los Angeles, and I'm currently in my 31st academic year or so. Long time. So you can imagine the grind I've been going through. I live in Southern California, so I live about 30 miles from the hospital. So just the quest to get to work and back.
Right.
Just for example, just getting up early in the morning, and sometimes 15 minutes makes a difference. And when I leave for the hospital, it can take an hour and a half. And I know that when I finish my afternoon shifts, 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon, it's a guaranteed hour and 15 minutes back. So I love what I do. I love taking care of patients. I think I make a difference in patient care for some of the families. But it's a grind though. So, I was thinking about trying to accelerate my retirement. So I got into multifamily apartment investing about 2-3 years ago with my wife, and started as LPs. And we decided to take the step to become active investors so that we can take advantage of the real estate professional hours and scale up and see, where we're at, so that I can work when I want to, not when I have to, that type of story, So just to, scale up, cut back, still do what I love to do, and go from there.
That's awesome. And so you started out in real estate investing in what way? As a passive investor, as a single family? A lot of people have different directions that they take.
Well, I grew up in the single family. My mother has a very nice portfolio. She's 90 years old. She's just recently did a 1031 exchange, and she did it a tough way. She really worked hard, with a single family portfolio. I'm one of 4 boys. So guess who were the property management people? We had to go down there, collect rents. I did a lot of, the renovations in between, tenants and stuff. So I learned how to install toilets and tiles and paint and all that stuff. So I didn't appreciate it when I was younger. I said, why am I doing this? Right. Just like I'd rather be out playing baseball or basketball with my friends in the summer months. And here I am working on these apartment units and so forth. So then as I got older, my wife and I have a duplex nearby where we live. And I thought, okay, this is what it's going to be like, right? And I think, gosh, it's got to be something more to that. One of my friends, Stephen Lowe from Burger Street Ventures, talked to me and, talk about tax breaks and so forth, because I'm incorporated. And I would have never gotten to the space without Steve, because it's all about relationships and trust, right? So Steve and our families attended the same church. My kids still know him as Uncle Steve and so forth. And my wife said, let's just go into this. Let's check it out, because it was one of the things we talk about, trust relationships, because as the ER doc, I'm like, let's do it, right? My wife's more methodical, right? She has to sit down and think about it. And so when Steve came by for dinner and told us about it, my wife went, yeah, that sounds really good. I was actually shocked, but that's when we took the step. We did invest as LPs, about 4 or 5 properties. And then, we looked at the real estate professional status for my wife, because she's a homemaker. So we have the ideal situation. So we decided to become active members. We enrolled in the Vertical Street Ventures Student Academy, learned the ropes. One of the key things we did part of the academy is that we were able to become student GPs on a deal. So, learning the ropes, sitting on the property management meetings, capital raising, and we're still active in that property.
Nice.
And now we're branching out and partnering with other people.
That's amazing. I love that. And we actually had Stephen and also Jenny Gu, who's a partner as well, and Kathy Jang, who are all, partners in. We've had them all on the podcast. So that's pretty cool that this small world is, I love what they do. And I was actually extremely impressed.
Fantastic.
Extremely impressed with Jenny when she described to me on the podcast, and this was probably a little over a year ago, and anyone can go back and check out that episode if you want, but she described the programs that they have for residents in giving back and providing financial education for residents. And that just kind of blew me away. That, it's one
phenomenal.
It's one thing to make, your communities feel safe, right? And the communities, the people that live there feel like, they call it home and they want to live there. But it's another thing to actually take it to the next level and, treat these people not just as your customers, your tenants, but actually as kind of family and really treating them as, someone that you want them to grow.
Yeah, absolutely. The Residents First program is amazing to see. It's a community, right? So it helps the occupancy stay up. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful brand that they have with that.
That's amazing. Wow. Small world indeed. But so you've you branched out from there, created your own thing. Have you been able to scale back at all your hours at the hospital? Because I imagine being an emergency room, children's hospital director, it's very grueling hours.
I haven't yet, but the plan is a year from this July. So there is a goal. I obviously still have to work for benefits, right? So I'm going to cut back probably 2/3 time. That's the goal. I already told my directors, if he's watching, I already told you this. So just the plan, because, right, I don't want that to happen. But like I said, I love what I do. I want to continue what I do. But again, just, instead of working, I work 12 to 13 shifts a month. I can go down to like 9, maybe in the future, once a week. So that's the ultimate goal, and just spend more time with, my wife. That we're empty nesters. And my children are both. Well, I just got married, one's engaged. So a lot of, new season in my life. So I just want to enjoy as much as I can.
Absolutely. For sure. It's a lot of people in your profession who don't really know much about financial education. And I know that's something, we spoke about briefly. You were on a LinkedIn Live we did a few weeks ago, and you spoke briefly about wanting to provide that kind of financial education, to people in the medical profession. Can you tell me a little bit more about kind of that goal and what you're doing with that?
Yeah, just this financial literacy. We never got this in med school, right? Because I come across a lot of my colleagues and, what are you doing, right? I said, well, I'm just trying to make it easier for everyone. I'm not out to destroy the medical profession, but I'm just trying to say, hey, we work really hard. I've seen a lot of my junior colleagues, they're just like working. It looks like me early in my career, just all that time that you missed out with the family. So just trying to teach them, the junior, the trainees and so forth. I said, this is something that I can teach you because you're young with families, and especially my avatar originally, and still is the female healthcare professional, because they have to balance a life as being a mother, a wife, and a career physician, nurse, or whatever it is. And that's the extreme balance. It's a difficult task to do. I've had multiple times where a lot of my colleagues, my female colleagues, say, hey, Calvin, can you do this shit for me or switch? I say, well, what's up? Because, well, my son is sick, or husband's on a business call.
Right.
I'm missing a family event. I said, yeah, I can help you, but I can also help you in another way. So it's just changing that mindset, right? Because, we study so hard. We got to where we've been after so many years of studying, working, taking tests and so forth. And it's hard to change that mindset. It was hard for me to make that mindset change too, that you don't have to work as hard. You can do well with passive income streams. You can cut back. So that's one of my goals, just is to talk to everybody who come across who are interested in, not necessarily to say I have a deal you can make it, but just to plant something in their heads, and there's something better out there for you to do.
There certainly is. And I think you're absolutely right in the fact that in the medical profession specifically, it's grueling. The residency, the hours that are spent, the years going through medical school, and the fact that a lot of people come out the other end making a pretty good salary, but at, spending a lot of that paying off student loans and, another
All
portion
right.
of it, going towards whatever the Western society has taught us, the standard of living that we have to have, et cetera. And not enough people are understanding how to actually invest that or just keep some of it to preserve that for retirement or who knows what.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. I remember back in the day, I thought, oh, after provide, I was working more and more and more. Actually, I had 3 positions at the hospital. Of course, I made more money, but what was that meant? I meant the net gain was really negative, whereas time away from the family and my wife and kids and taxes too, right? So the more you make, the more you're going to get taxed. So there's really no net gain from that.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, are there things that you learned throughout real estate? I'm just curious because there are a lot of people listening to this podcast who are in a similar situation that they're like learning about real estate. And I think one of the reasons they're drawn to podcasts like Weiss Advice is because we interview people who have been in a similar situation. And I'm curious to know for you, obviously you had that background briefly as a kid working with single families, but when you started learning, when Stephen kind of introduced you to the multifamily and the tax benefits that come along with it, et cetera, like what was one thing that kind of just like blew your mind?
I think it's just the scalability between single family home and the multifamily where, you can mitigate risk and just, spread over costs over many different units, other numbers, obviously. So that was the one big thing for me because I'm just watching my mom, have a fourplex here and a duplex here and so forth. Whereas this, I'm just trying to scale up faster. I turned 60 this year. So I'm just like, okay, I want to get to that point where I can actually cut back as long as I can walk and talk and breathe and I can enjoy things so that just to have that passive income stream that's consistent and real estate is it's the way to go. So
it's amazing that the ability to scale when you're dealing with multifamily. And I know, Vertical Street, VSV, they've scaled pretty quickly, over the past few years. And I think that's part of the game plan is the education that they involve in that and just, bringing on people who can help them grow and finding the right people to grow their team and the right people to make the reality happen. And I think that's part of it as well. When you're dealing with single family rentals, you're doing a lot of it yourself. It's very hard to scale a team when you're dealing with, so many doors. And you could do that much faster when you're dealing with a big property.
Right. My mom did it the hard way, but she's a strong businesswoman. So she was very business oriented. She bought a I turned 60 this year. She bought the fourplex at Huntington Beach when I was 6 months old and she still has it. So you just imagine, right? Mm-hmm. But that took a lot of work and time to do that. Whereas now I'm like, am I getting in the game too late? No, I don't think so. It's just a matter of just getting in there and playing it out.
For sure. For sure. Now, going forward, you mentioned you're moving into some, different operators, investing with other things. Have you looked at other things? You've dealt with single family, you've dealt with multifamily. Other asset classes kind of pique your interest at all?
Yeah, there's, it's oil and gas or something. I've actually sat in a couple of podcasts webinars about that. Mm-hmm. And it's a lot different. It's all about education, right? It's what your comfort level is. I know that you get the gross appreciation right up, straight up. And that's the one thing, but it's just something I still have to learn about. Precious metals too. But again, just all about education and just to make myself comfortable to make that step, because it was the same thing when I made the step into multifamily. I have to get comfortable with it and see the fruits of it as it comes through full cycle deals and so forth. So I said, okay, this does work. Maybe it's to try to diversify, look at other things as well.
That's interesting. I really haven't heard much about, precious metals or precious rocks, things like that. Oil and gas is a fascinating subcategory, investing, where I think it's really one of the only other investment classes where it have such significant tax benefits, even for someone who, who's a regular W-2 employee, right? Which is fascinating to me. Why do you think that is? They're giving, the government kind of gives these tax breaks, or what have you learned from that thus far?
Well, I guess it depends on who's in administration, right? In terms of the tax breaks, we have different philosophies on that, gas versus electric and all so forth. So I think that's just promotion just to get it into that and to promote the industry, right? Because I'm a Tesla guy, right? But oil and gas is so part of it. It's not just gas, but it's all the different products that actually go into making a battery. and so
Right.
forth. So there are a lot of incentives for that. And so I never thought of that because I thought it was just gas, right? People are just, pouring the diesel and so forth. But I just learning that there's a lot of products that come from petroleum and so forth that make other things run too, like the electric factor and so forth.
For sure. That's amazing. It really is. I think there's so much education that needs to, when it comes to investing, people don't really know what's out there, what's available. And people don't even know that, you can invest in oil and gas as, not just like the
right.
stocks of it, like you can actually invest in mines or pumps. I don't know what they're called exactly. Drain. It's pretty fascinating. Now, you mentioned that you kind of grew up around it. Your mother still invests, I imagine, locally, right? You have a duplex locally.
Right.
But in your investment portfolio, and I know VSV, they primarily focus in Arizona is the market they're in. Have you ever considered investing in California, or do you specifically look elsewhere when you're looking for, real estate investments?
Yeah, I'm mainly an out of state type of person. California has their different, tenant laws or tenant friendly stories. I've experienced my mom's crazy tenants and, trying to evict the bad ones. It takes, time and so forth, lost rent and so forth. So yeah, I'm really adopting the VSB model of investing in Phoenix. Got some in Tucson. Recently, I've been partnering with Brian Briscoe.
Oh,
We're in
nice.
the Salt Lake City area. So, which has been good. We've been there. My wife and I went to Best Ever Conference, met up with Brian, and he showed us the properties that we partner in and one that we're doing now. So it's a great city and a lot of economic growth that's there too. So, and it's local, so to speak, because, I've looked at other places like the Midwest or East Coast, but it's still a long flight for me from California. And so, I just want something that I can actually get on a plane, hour and a half,
Right.
just out and so forth. Like Arizona's close. I can drive there here from Southern California.
Sure.
Because I've had some friends, have had places in the Midwest. And how do you like the properties? And they said, I've never set foot on those properties. I do a FaceTime call with the property management people. I said, wow, really? You're investing all that time and money and never looked at it. So for me, I have to be there to touch it, to look at it, to make sure things are running well.
That's awesome. Now, you have a really interesting name for the company that you decided to make your investment portfolio, right? You want to tell us a little bit about the name of your investment business?
It's called PEACEquity, and the first four letters is the acronym for my family's first name. So it's Peggy, Elizabeth, Austin, and Calvin. And it really means a lot for us because our philosophy is family, peace of mind, and generational wealth. So that's what we're always looking for. It just, again, for me, just taking my background, my experiences, it's all about family first, and just to have that time, that precious time, because I've lost so much time. I can never buy that time back. And now I wanted to have that freedom of choice, freedom of time, so I can spend, my kids are now getting married. I said, okay, grandkids, I'm embracing that. I think, my hair is getting a little more gray. I just want to, enjoy that time that's going to happen. Again, like I said, it's a new season for me. So I'm embracing it well.
For sure. And I love that you kind of embrace that, but also kind of incorporate family into your business. And that's really what it's all about. It's not about
right.
just a business
Absolutely.
in itself. You make your family actually the core, the foundation of the business. And that really, that means a lot. That says a lot about, who you are as a person and also what your goals are. A lot of people deal with investment differently, but, I kind of appreciate that approach. And you also have, from what I understand, a local meetup that you guys still live events. Is that together with Vertical Street, or is that kind of something you started on your own?
Yeah, indirectly, some of my fellow students from Vertical Street Ventures that we came together. A lot of us live in Orange County and LA County. It's called the Passive Income Club. We do it every month. We try to meet every third Tuesday of every month, either in Orange County. We act to alternate a venue in Orange County and a venue in Los Angeles because all our friends and potential partners are, LA, Southern California is a big, sprawling metropolitan area. So we just want to try to capture all those people. So we talk about passive income streams, not necessarily just real estate, but other things too. A lot of stuff with aspects of real estate. But I have some friends who came out and talked about insurance vehicles, right, as another way to invest, be your own bank and so forth. And it's been great. And some days, some months we just sit and network. and just talk. And it's a great place to meet up with people, educate. And that's the whole thing. It's a part of the financial literacy, I guess, initiative we call it, just to educate people about these things. And there's other things that are out there that they can improve their own lives and their journey through passive income.
For sure. Yeah, and that's awesome. I mean, I think local meetups are the best because you really get to network, you get to know people, especially if you're coming over and over again. You know, it's a monthly thing. It's a meeting. You get to know people better. You get to spend time with them. And it really kind of grows a community of sorts.
It's great to network. It's a powerful tool. And, I learned too. It's just like, I just, is one thing I want to say, when I got into this realm, it felt like the learning curve was much steeper for me than for like what med school was. Cause, I was growing up, science, mathematics and so forth. I have no background in finance or business or anything like that. So it was a tall order. But as I continue to learn from people like you, other podcasts, meetups, conferences, it gets a lot. It actually is more fun because I remember the first time I went to a conference, I had no idea what people were talking about. But after a year or so, I'm like, I'm really enjoying this now because I actually do understand this.
That's awesome. And it does, it takes time, right? I'm sure there are plenty of people that come to your meetups who are, complete newbies and really haven't had experience with that.
I was one of them.
I mean, yeah, exactly. You're one of them. You're a doctor, you're running you're a physician. That it's very hard to kind of incorporate that when, investing in any way whatsoever. So, good for you that kind of took the leap and found a new path, kind of paving your new path for you. So I'm really excited where this journey will take you. Like you said, kind of turning a new leaf in your life, this kind of different stage in life, obviously with the kids out of the house, getting married, having grandkids, and that's going to be hopefully a great, great time for you.
Thank you.
Calvin, I want to transition now to what we call the final four. So these are 4 questions I ask all my guests. And the first question for you is, what's the worst job that you ever had?
That's a great question because really I only had 2 jobs technically. One was growing up in the grocery business with my parents. I was a meat cutter,
Oh, wow.
I'm a physician, right? So I guess one of the aspects, during my training, I was emergency medical technician student. And it was just, I was really on the bottom rung of everything, right? In terms of, where I was actually in the emergency department, just like the orderly, cleaning this up, all this stuff. But, that was a good, I have to change that to a positive because that was a good foundation to get all that. But, it was just trying to get started in the field. And maybe my mindset was different at that time. Saying, wow, I really have to do this. I have to clean up this blood on the floor, that type of thing. But, it's a stepping stone for where I am right now. So I guess that would have been the worst job, I guess. But, again, I've only been, I actually had 2 jobs in my life. So I can't go and say anything bad about my family business because that's where we were, right? My mom and dad owned a grocery store for 25 years, but 4 sons through professional school and we all have successful careers. So.
That's amazing. Well, good for you. Yeah. I mean, working with meat is not easy. Actually, funny story. I worked briefly in a restaurant / supermarket as well and did a little work in the meat cutting and learned a little bit about that, but sliced my thumb pretty badly one day, one Friday morning. I had to get 5 stitches and I still have like a scar on my thumb there, if you can see the camera.
Well, I have myself. Yeah. My dad was the meat cutter. He said, "You're not a butcher unless you cut yourself." I said, "Okay." I that was reinforced several times. So
yeah.
Now, like when I saw my kids' faces, I was a meat cutter growing up. So get a good laugh in the parents. A little nervous laugh, I guess.
Right. Yeah. Not too much different here. Good thing you didn't become a surgeon, I guess that's it. Second question, Calvin, what's a book you've read that's given you a paradigm shift?
Yeah, that's a good question too. I think one of them is a book by Tom Burns. If you know him, he's a Robert Kiyosaki protege. It's a book called Why Doctors Don't Get Rich. And it's a good thing because it's a sort of a takeoff from Rich Dad Poor Dad, but it comes from a physician's point of view. Dr. Burns was or he still is, the team doctor for the U.S. ski team. And I've heard him speak and it just like his journey, whereas he identified a lot of doctors not happy with their jobs and what his journey was in terms of getting out of that rat race of the medical field and so forth. Again, just to do what he wants to do. Because, for me, that changed me. So I thought I had to work. I just had to work, right? And provide for the family. But now I said, I don't have to work as hard. I just have to work because I enjoy what I do. So that was the big mindset for me. Mindset change.
Sure. That's huge. Yeah. We'll make sure to put that in the show notes. That seems like fascinating. It really obviously relates to any career whatsoever, but taking it personally and understanding that how it applies to the medical profession from someone who themselves is a medical physician, et cetera, obviously hits close to home for sure. Third question, what's a skill or talent that you would like to learn?
I love music. For me, I grew up in the 80s. It's all about 80s rock and roll and so forth. I like to play an instrument of some sort. My kids are very musical. My daughter plays piano and flute. My son plays drums and guitar. So I would love to pick up like a musical instrument, either a guitar or drums, just to have that time to relax and be therapeutic for me.
That's amazing. Yeah, it is. And I'm sure, if you want to do it, set your mind to it, you'll pick it up. It's a good thing. Fourth and final question, what does success mean to you?
Success is it's more about feeling good about myself, that I've done something to leave a legacy, especially to my family. It's not about monetary things. It's more like, I guess say more like wealth. And what does that mean? It could mean more time, quality time spent with my wife and my family. So something that I've achieved that I can continue to do that without, thinking about, okay, I'm on call or something like that, just to have that mindset where I can have that quality time with the people I love.
Yeah, that's amazing. It really is. It really changes your perspective. And I'm sure that definition has changed over time, right?
Oh, yeah.
But now you kind of...
Yeah, I mean, it was before it's like, okay, it's the next house, right? It's the next bigger house and so forth. The thing is that we actually downsized 5 years ago. It was the best thing ever, that we did. It just brought all the expenses down, all the stress. And it just changed my wife and I's relationship too, because it was just a lot of stuff I had to provide. But now it's just like, okay, not really on cruise control, but it's just something that's more
one less thing to worry about.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. So I guess that's another success for me as well.
Love that. Yeah, that's awesome. Finally, Calvin, how can our listeners find you or reach out to you besides for, the Children's Hospital Los Angeles? But if anyone wants to reach out to you, how would they go about doing that?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. I also have Facebook and Instagram posts. Also, we have a website. It's www.PEACEquity.com. Let me spell it because it's a little different. It's PEACEQUITY. And also my email is cal@peaceequity.com. So yeah, just reach out to me. More than happy to sit down and talk to you about passive income streams.
Awesome. Well, we'll make sure to put all that in the show notes. And I really appreciate you coming on the show today, Calvin. Thanks so much.
Thank you, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Awesome. And to our listeners, thank you guys for tuning in once again all the way to the end. And remember, the best advice comes only when you ask. Real quick, I have one question for you. Did you like this episode? If you did, I want to ask you a huge favor. See, the biggest thing that helps this podcast grow and that will spread this message to the whole world is that if you leave a review, a rating, and subscribe to the podcast. What that does is it basically tells the platforms that this podcast is out on is that you like my stuff and I'm doing something right. So take a few seconds out of your day, hit that subscribe button, leave a rating or review. I would be extremely grateful. Also, I want to hear from you guys. So I want to hear some feedback. If you have any questions for future episodes, please find me on LinkedIn. Send me a DM, connection request, Yona Weiss, and I'd love to hear from you.